story that completely flips a massive environmental crisis on its head. It's all about how a country went from literally drowning in its own garbage to facing a new problem that is, well, it's almost too weird to believe. Remember this? If you were in China just a few years ago, this question was a source of genuine daily stress. The entire country was obsessed with this massive, meticulous garbage sorting campaign. You literally could not get away from it.
And then, poof, it just kind of vanished from the headlines. So what happened? Did people just give up? Was the whole thing a big failure? Well, the real answer is so much more interesting, and it points to a huge technological revolution that was happening almost silently in the background. Okay, so to really get the solution, first you have to understand the sheer scale of the problem. This wasn't just some messy inconvenience, it was a full-blown national crisis. Experts even had a name for it: the garbage siege. Just let this number sink in for a second. 2/3. We're talking about 2/3 of all cities in the country literally being encircled by their own trash. I mean, picture a giant ring of garbage just growing and growing around major cities. This wasn't just a local issue, it was a threat to the entire country. And listen, we are not talking about small-time landfills here. These were actual mountains of garbage. Some of them were taller than a 20-story building, just sitting there leaking toxic sludge into the groundwater and stinking up the air. It was a truly apocalyptic scene. That was the challenge they were facing. So, faced with this nightmare, everyone thought that super strict sorting was the only way out. But the real game changer? It came from a totally different direction. It came from a technological revolution in how you burn trash. For years, people were terrified of incinerators, and for a really good reason. The old way of burning trash created this nasty stuff called dioxins. To put that in perspective for you, dioxin isn't just a little toxic, it is 900 times more toxic than arsenic. Yeah, so cracking that problem was the key to everything. And here is the genius breakthrough. Chinese engineers figured out that if you can crank the furnace temperature up to an incredibly high level, we're talking above 1140 degrees Celsius, you solve the problem. At that insane heat, 99.99% of those deadly dioxins just break apart into harmless stuff. It's a near-perfect solution. And they didn't just meet the global standard, they completely blew past it. Today, China's emission standards for these waste plants are actually stricter than the ones in the European Union. I mean, that is an absolutely stunning turnaround. But this incredible success story led to a brand new problem. A problem that, I promise you, absolutely no one saw coming. You see, China went on this massive building spree, creating over 1,000 of these new high-tech plants. All told, their capacity to burn trash hit 2.8 billion tons a year. The only problem? The country's cities only produce about 2.5 billion tons of trash. Suddenly, the maths just didn't work anymore. That's right. The technology was so successful and they built it out so fast that China is now facing a garbage shortage. There literally isn't enough trash to keep all these super efficient new plants running. This has kicked off a totally bizarre race for fuel. You've got these shiny, state-of-the-art plants competing with each other, sometimes across provincial lines, just to get their hands on enough garbage. It gets even wilder. Some of them have started digging up those old, polluting landfills to reclaim decades-old trash, just to have something to burn. And all this leads us to the final and I think the most incredible part of the story. This technology didn't just solve a problem. It turned waste from a liability into a seriously valuable resource. The whole process is this perfect, elegant circle. First, you burn the trash. That generates electricity and heat for entire communities. The leftover ash, or slag, that gets recycled into these high-quality, eco-friendly bricks for construction. And even the most toxic liquid runoff gets treated so well that the water coming out the other end is clean enough to raise fish in. Seriously. Nothing is wasted. And here is the economic genius of it all. The plants are no longer just money pits for the government. They've become profitable businesses that make money selling power and selling bricks. The system literally pays for itself. So let's go all the way back to that first question. What happened to that crazy sorting campaign? Well, it turns out it wasn't a failure at all. It was actually a bridge, a warm transition, you could say, that managed the crisis while this massive new tech infrastructure was being built behind the scenes. And the scale of that infrastructure is it's staggering. Today, China alone accounts for about half of the entire planet's waste incineration capacity. Just think about that. One country has as much capacity as the rest of the world combined. So, in the end, in just about a decade, China went from being a follower, desperately trying to manage a garbage siege, to a world-leading innovator that other countries are now trying to learn from. It's an incredible story of turning a crisis into a huge advantage. It really makes you wonder, if technology can solve a nation's trash problem so completely that it actually creates a trash shortage, what other seemingly impossible challenges are just one breakthrough away from being solved?